One shot, just one, and then there'll be no more. Just one shot.
Hello there, fellow fops, fashion plates, fools, and ferals like this fetid fiend right fucking here. Like all you fetid fiends out fucking there. I want to introduce you to somebody. This is New Cat. See what a beautiful, sweet, dainty, matronly lass she is? She's a nice old lady. Yes, she is. She's like the sweetest cat on earth. Let's see if she'll do the belly flop thing. Belly flop. Belly flop. What are you doing? Don't make a fool out of me. Ah, there we go. Belly flop. Oh, time for Isabelly rubs. Her name's Isabel. We call her Isabelly because this is all she does. Well, this is all she does in eat and poop. We had two fucking cats before this cat. One of them was a fat ass that weighed 4 times the size of this one, and the other one was this big male tomcat galoot. And she puts out more feces than both of them. She puts out more feces than a medieval fucking village. She got little shit nuggets hanging from her dainty fur. Oh, she's so cute. Yes, she is. She's a sweetheart. Yes, she is. Yes, but I have to clean her box like every 2 fucking hours. She goes in there recreationally. She takes a shit, goes back in there 3 seconds later, finishes taking a shit. Ah, it's to be marveled at. Can you guys see me with this fucking... Hold on. Fucking... Are you serious? You break my balls? I don't know if that helps. I just had an argument with my wife. My wife's pretty fucking intelligent, very well read. She's actually the most intelligent woman I've ever met. But the cat was taking another shit in the box, and I literally just cleaned the fucking box yesterday. And it was a horror. I've seen a lot of horrors, so for me to call something a horror, it's a horror. And she poops and stinks the whole house up, and then 5 minutes later she goes back in. So I just said, I'm going to brick her up like a Amontillado. She's like, Amontillado was a sherry. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Cask Amontillado by fucking Edgar Allan Poe. She's like, what was the name of the fool? I was like, Fortunato. She's like, what was the name of the guy that pricked him up in the wall? I was like, Montressa. I was like, don't cross intellectual swords with me unless you're going to do like the Fury of 5 song. And those who want some, come and get it. Better come strong or don't come at all. I was like, you want to play this game? I was like, what was Usher's name? She was like, I was like, Roderick. I was like, what was Montressa's family crest? She was like, I was like, Nemo me impune lacessit. She's like, what's that? I was like, Latin. Nobody impugns me. No, what is it? Nobody wounds me with impunity. Don't cross intellectual swords with me unless you got your parries and repartees down. So, this is a special episode of White Trash Rob's Nodcast. I don't even know if this is a Nodcast. I guess it technically qualifies as one if I choose to call it such. But this is a special episode in that we are breaking with the usual format. We're doing an interview. The interview is with Brody King from God's Hate, a band whose brand I endorse and support fully. Not only is it am I quite fond of their music, but I'm quite fond of everybody in the fucking band. My socially contracted life mate in hardcore, Anthony Gonzalez, is in God's Hate, who does some of the best videos I've ever seen, making fun of white people. They reliably brighten my mood, and as I've said before, and I'll say again, whenever I feel like it, the only thing hitherto in my life, other than my wife, who reliably brightens my mood, 5th of Jack Daniels, barrel full of dope. So God bless you, Anthony, for those videos, because anything that can reliably put me in a better humor is important to me. Colin Young's in that band from Twitch and Tongues, another band whose brand I support and endorse wholeheartedly. One of the most original bands I've heard in about 20 years. And of course, Brody King, Nate, their singer. I've been talking to them all for a long time on Twitter and the social media and shit like that. And I wanted to get an interview with Brody because he's a professional wrestler in addition to being the singer for a hardcore band. I thought that would be an utterly interesting new perspective to attempt to share with you all. I was a fan of professional wrestling as a kid, and I find it fascinating as an industry. I thought it would be an interesting perspective. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Without further ado, here it is. Brody King and White Trash Rob on White Trash Rob's Nodcast, yakking it up for you. See you in a second, guy. P.S. I hope this will be the first of many interviews. RAMALLAH has a bunch of shows coming up. I'm hoping to interview more people on the road, as I did with Brody at the Freedom Fest, which was a blast. The reason I started with Brody was because the audio and video footage was good. And also because, as I said, his perspective as a professional wrestler I thought was interesting. There's nothing interesting about being in a hardcore band. And if there's anything I feel you guys need to know about being in a hardcore band, I was in fucking Blood for Blood and RAMALLAH. I'll fucking tell you anything you need to know about being in a hardcore band. However, the professional wrestling element was very interesting to me, especially comparing and contrasting the two fields and lifestyles. Second, I have some other interview footage. I got an awesome couple of what would you call them? Not clips. I got a couple of sit-downs with Colin of Arabia and my brother Jimmy Knuckles. The problem with that footage, there's audio problems, and I don't know if I can fix them. That's why I did that. I sat down with those guys a couple of times months ago, but the audio's fucked up. I'm hoping I can rescue it. There's also a lot of editing to be done, and until recently, my hard drive was fucking full on my computer. I finally dealt with that dilemma, so I'm hoping to get that footage up as well. I've also had my brother on in previous episodes, but he's my brother, and we were talking about Charlestown. So, you know, that was like a special event. I've also had Bailsy Bob on, the editor of this show, my hetero life mate. So hopefully more to come. Last thing, real quick for the record. The reason I was gloating over that verbal repartee with my wife is because I so rarely come out on top of verbal struggles like that with her. And I'm putting that on the record because otherwise, if I don't, she'll sneak in the room at night and karate chop me across the bridge of the fucking nose. It is a rare day that I come out on top of a verbal struggle with my Deirdre. That's why I was gloating. It's not a regular occurrence. That's all. Hope you enjoy this fireside chat with Brody King and White Trash Rob. See you in a second, guys.
The sign in the road says we're going nowhere. Oh yeah!
Oh, you know what? Like
Right in front of Junior.
All right, I'll have to lean in. Hello there, fellow dudes, damsels, dandies, and dashing dasses with a deranged demonic desire for delirious, delicious, daring do, like this deviant dilettante right here, like this deviant dilettante right here, and all you deviant dilettantes out fucking there. I never have guests on, but I promised you, if I did, it would be somebody interesting. Gaze upon somebody interesting. This is Brody King from God's Hate. He's also a pro wrestler. And we didn't prep this in any way. We were just in the middle of talking about my intense loathing for
Nikki Sixx.
For Nikki Sixx, yeah. I assume you said you've seen him around, right?
Yeah, he frequents like the Ralphs in Hollywood. So if you ever need to know where to find him.
Oh, dude, I fucking hate that guy. Like I was just saying, it's first of all, he can never pretend to have anything in common with the garden variety American experience with drugs right now because he was always a fucking rich guy. But like I said, from insiders I've heard, from fucking outsiders, and if you read between the lines in fucking Slash's book, everything adds up to him selling that as a product. I don't care what anybody sells if it's an honest artistic expression, but that dude is selling that Prince of Darkness fucking image, and that makes me so sick because he actually was emulated. You know what I mean? Like back in the day when they were wicked popular. People tried to be him.
Yeah. I've never been a Motley Crue guy anyways. I always thought they sucked.
Yeah, they do. Same with Jimmy Page too. I was never a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but I don't detest them. But when I found out that Jimmy Page used to carry around that Jack Daniels bottle full of fucking iced tea,
that sucks.
How can you have that on your comma?
Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. You're literally selling excess.
I'm more impressed when those guys don't do drugs or drink, like, because it's like, wow, you guys are really holding back.
Mm-hmm. You know what I was shocked to find out, and it actually fucking impressed me, was you know who's been straight his entire career, to the point of straight edge. He didn't know the word back then because it was before. It was like a lifestyle. But Ted Nugent.
Oh yeah,
he has
I
never done drugs or anything. His politics are kind of asinine, but I found that fascinating that all those years, because I thought he was like a degenerate wild man.
I think Danzig also has like never really dabbled in drugs and stuff like that, but I think he drinks wine. Like
yeah,
like he's a wine guy, but like he's not like a party animal.
In like his creepy house, like with a goblet.
Yeah, it's definitely
it.
like a metal goblet, like a hand or something.
Yeah,
probably.
swirling it evenly and contemplating how dark he is. I actually saw an interview with Danzig recently. That fucking... When the bottom drops out, when the world isn't as you know it anymore. I saw an interview with him relatively recently, and he was humble and gracious. He was like, I've just been lucky, man. I've been living the dream. He's like, I'm just glad people still care. I was like...
Oh, the end is near.
Yeah, I was like, dude, when did the pod people come and take fucking Danzig? Because he's always been the most entitled, fucking arrogant motherfucker. I mean, I don't care. It's part of his, like, evil Elvis sort of mystique.
Yeah, he lives the gimmick.
Yeah, but to hear him, I was like, man, everybody gets old. The Buddha was right, man. Aging is suffering.
That's true.
I meant to ask you, though, because this interests me. You and I have talked, like, even when I don't follow it, like the active stuff that's going on with like TNA and WWE anymore, I've always followed all the old wrestlers I was into and the lifestyle. That's what I find fascinating, because there's something, to me, there's like a kindredship between like music and wrestling.
Oh yeah.
It's ephemeral. It ebbs and flows, and it depends upon people caring.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people. It kills a lot of. I think wrestling.
It's self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
To like the highest degree.
Well, the other, like, wrestling, I think out of every single sport, all of them, including MMA, boxing, everything, has the highest fatality rate for people dying under 40.
Yeah.
And I just find the whole thing fascinating. Like, how did you get into it?
I've been like a fan my whole life, but like I never knew the avenues to like get into a wrestling school. I didn't know that there was such thing, and I didn't know that there was like a big independent scene. But the drummer slash guitar player of our band, Colin Young.
Yep.
He's also in Twitchy Tongues. He's
in God's Hate.
He isn't. Yeah, he plays drums in God's Hate. He's like the main songwriter.
No shit.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy is a wonderkind.
Yeah, he
passed. Oh, I'll give it to him. Sorry about that. Thanks. Yep.
Him and his brother are like musical prodigies. Everything they do is great. But anyways, he was dating someone who met a guy that was like, hey, if your boyfriend ever wants to try out wrestling, like, let me know. And I found out that he was like taking a couple private lessons, and I was like, I need to know what this is. So I went to a show at my school, and then the next day I signed up. And 3 years later, I'm a professional wrestler.
So you're 3 years from the school to where you're at now?
Yeah.
Did you start jobbing, or did you get like noticed by somebody, or?
At my school, like, they kind of pushed me out of the gate pretty hard. Like, they held me back from graduating right away. Like, usually the timeline is about a year from like start to finish, and then you kind of start jobbing and stuff like that. But for me, because I'm so much, like, especially in the independent scene, I'm like a giant compared to most people.
I was gonna say, you're taller, like you're way taller than your like average guy, but you're not nearly as tall as I thought you were gonna be compared to the guys I saw you wrestling.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is everyone wrestling is between like 5'7" and like 6 foot. Like, that's probably the average. So it's like I'm like Andre the Giant compared to most independent wrestlers now. So they kind of like pushed me out of the gate hard as a dominant face, heel, whatever. I've just been kind of like an aggressive face my entire career so far.
So you're like a tweener?
Yeah, well, the problem is
like an evil face.
I act like a heel, but people like me.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen had the same effect. They acted like assholes, but everyone loved them. Yeah,
it's funny. I pay a lot of attention to promotion. Wrestling is one area where that utterly is like, it can be the center of it. There's a mixed martial artist named Dominic Cruz, who anytime I see an interview with him, I will fucking track it down. The dude's just, he has impacted my outlook on a variety of things a bunch of different times. And he's not an especially sympathetic guy. He's kind of smug. But one of the things he had said was, and it fits with music, he's like, and wrestling, if anybody's ever sticking a mic in your face, you got to use that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you have to use it. The second thing is you don't get to choose how the audience perceives you. You might want the audience to like you as a good guy or whatever. If they choose not to, you are stuck with the dilemma of, do I get mad about this or do I just go with it?
No, I definitely had that conflict because it's like, you know, promoter will book you and they'll be like, I want you to be heel. And then you go out there and I do heel shit. I beat down the baby face or whatever, and they're still cheering for me. And then sometimes the promoter's like, yeah, you know, well, the crowd was kind of like in your favor, so, you know, kind of do better at that next time. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to gouge them in the eye with a screwdriver? Like,
to me, that's similar to exactly like mace them.
yeah.
And even then they might like it, but you can't predict it. It's kind of similar to, I can't stop looking at that girl's ass. I can't stop it. I mean, it's right there. Like, that's the thing. It's not my fault.
Just presenting it.
Yeah, I'm not being like creepy. It's there. It is right in the headlights. But it's sort of like when bands used to get up, hardcore bands, it used to disturb me from day one, and I was like, I'm never doing this, never. When bands would get up and beg the audience to dance. Why don't you dance?
Yeah.
And fucking, it kills me inside. Like, I die inside. And then a lot of those same bands, they don't let it go. They stay at it rather than accept, you know, we're not having a big splash tonight. Let's just bang them and get off stage.
Yeah.
So their attitude becomes, well, if they didn't dance for the 15th through 17th song, they'll definitely dance for the 18th. I'm like, dude, you're going about this the wrong way.
It's like every show, every song, they're like, dance, you fucking pussies. It's
Yeah.
like no one moves, and they're just like, come on, what's wrong with you guys? And you're like, oh, that's going to win them over.
Yeah, that's it. There's a herd mentality to an audience that you can, it's a subtle art. I've studied it. There's a fine line of antagonizing an audience versus getting personal with an audience, which you never want to do. You never want them personally hating you. When you harangue an audience or insult an audience, and I don't do it as much as I used to with Blood for Blood, you have to do it in a way that they think you're insulting everybody but them personally. You never get personal. One of the reasons I won't mention his name, but one of the bass players RAMALLAH had, he would get coked up and go on stage and give people the finger and spit at them personally. I was like, you can't do that. Our audience will kill you. They will pull you off the stage and break shit. I'm like, you can't do that. You can't get personal. If you want to give people the
Especially
finger,
probably at that time, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was like, do it over their heads. Don't do it directly at them. But again, you don't get to choose how you're received. But do you think? Because this is what I think, and maybe this. I'm just checking to see if it was true. Do you think they held you back because they saw something in you? Because I'll say something. You move, especially for a guy your size, way better than a lot of the small guys.
Yeah, I mean.
And you don't have stamina issues.
No, not really. It's funny because on one of the Twitching Tongues records, they credit me as having unlimited pit endurance.
Yeah.
Which I'm just like, I never really get tired or blown up.
Do you always have like excessive energy your whole life? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been straight edge since I was 16, and I've just never had an issue with energy or anything like that. I've just always just kind of been a live wire. Like, I don't sleep much. I probably get like 5 to 6 hours of sleep every night, and I get up and go to work all day, and then go to wrestling all night, and do it all over again every day. But yeah, to go back to your question, my trainer actually, he was just like, you know, we saw. I've always they've always kind of like seen a lot in me. Me and a couple other students that like we kind of came up together, and each one of us is like had like a different path because we're like different types of wrestlers, but we're all like kind of, I guess, a step above. Not to like put myself over or anything.
I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
But he definitely he helped us out by like giving us an opportunity that a lot of people wouldn't get. And
Is he leaving?
Yeah.
Oh, is he splitting?
Yeah, probably.
Oh shit.
You can open the door and yell at him.
Anthony, it was nice meeting you, brother. Oh man, I didn't want to let you go without saying bye.
Yeah, don't worry, man.
You guys be safe.
You too.
That's my roommate Anthony. He's one of the funniest people in the world.
Anthony G. Gonzalez, right?
Anthony
with an
Anthony
IE.
XG. Yeah, with an IE.
You gotta check
Anthony.
out his videos.
Oh. Yeah, you gotta check him out on Twitter. He's hilarious.
They are fucking hilarious. Like, they genuinely make me laugh. They often, after I see one, like, I'm in a better mood.
Yeah.
And that's how I rate stuff that I value in my life these days. But I've from an outside, I know nothing about what it takes to make I think one of the other reasons that I'm so fascinated by wrestling and MMA is it's so foreign to what I've done with my life. There's the similarities as far as promotion and
it's
stuff
not
like that.
as foreign as you would think. Because, I mean, I've been doing punk and hardcore music since I was 16 years old, and like touring since I was probably like 19, 20 years old. And
Damn.
segueing that into wrestling, like I thought it was gonna be completely different, and I'm like, no, it's all the same. All the same bullshit.
Wrestling, I think it has a lot of similarities. The reason it's so foreign to me is I'm not, like, even with, like, live show and stuff like that, and it goes back to something you said. You had said you've always been straight edge. And from age, like, 9 on, I used to call it a electrical current. I always had a electrical current of black restlessness running through me at all times. I could never be wherever I was. I always wanted to be either 1,000 miles away or I was 1,000 miles in the past, but I always had it just felt like somebody was wiring me with electricity at all times. It was not comfortable. It was not good energy. It was not productive energy. But the thing was, that's what wrapped me up in drugs so hard, so quickly. And it actually wasn't drugs. I was never like a libertine. I was never like, hey man, give me whatever you got. I started drinking when I was about 12, and I was an alcoholic by 13, and then I stayed away from all other drugs for the next 13 years because I was afraid if you're that much of an alcoholic from your first beer, you better not go near any other drugs.
No, because it's going to kill you.
It'll kill me if I get into coke or something like that. And I got into opiates in a roundabout accidental way. I've told this story before. Anybody wants to hear it, you can scan through other NODCAST, podcasts, whatever. But that was the only relief I got from the black restlessness. I think if I had gotten into straight edge or stayed away from drugs, which was statistically unlikely in my hometown, I wonder what I would have done different, because there were periods early on when I would get sober, and the only way for me, like I'd go 6 months maybe clean or whatever, the only way for me to tolerate that current coming back in was like to do thousands of crunches a day, like run 5 miles a day. Like I literally couldn't function. I wonder if I never had that, if I would have done something physical. But since I didn't, and now that I'm old, I don't have a threshold for physical discomfort the way I did when I was really young.
Right.
And that's the area where wrestling is utterly different. Like I watch some of the stuff, I have no illusions about what you do. Like I know a lot of people think it's all stunts and trampolines. No, you are landing on your back. You're getting thrown on cement.
It's like maybe a half an inch of like shitty foam, like
if
padding.
you're lucky, right?
And and then it's like giant boards and steel beams. It is not soft at all.
Are you split now?
Yeah, I'm splitting.
Oh, dude. One second, guys. Just gonna say goodbye to Baby Allen
I
before
want
she
to hang
goes.
out in there. It smells so good.
Awesome, brother.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you. That was fucking awesome. You guys be safe. I'll see you, hon. Now, can I bum one more cigarette up?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me see what
I'm
we
gonna
got here.
stop and hit an big beat. Oh, dude, you're the man.
You are.
Thank you.
All right.
Be
Later,
safe,
bud.
guys. Be safe.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, hon. Oh, that was Alan. I just called Alan, hon. I just called my guitar player, hon.
I only want to say bye to you.
Hey, doing?
Bye and hello and hello and goodbye.
Bye.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Bye. Have a good night. It was good to see you, Rob, for 2.4 seconds.
You be safe tonight, please.
I will. Have a great night, guys.
See
Be
ya.
safe. We actually got luckier with interruptions than I thought after a show. We've been doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, there's very few so far.
I'm like, every time somebody walks by, I'm like, whew, this is going all right.
I feel like people are coming on there like, that's an
What are they
unlikely pair to
doing
be
in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Are they planning a hit? The physical thing, like you started to say, there's no way to throw somebody on concrete safely.
No.
There's no way to throw somebody into steel girders safely. Like, this is the way I reckon it. Like, if I'm bombing around, I'm always in a manic fugue. If I just smash into the coffee table, that hurts for 15 minutes. So imagine you picking me up and throwing me on the cement.
Yeah,
like, I know they train you how to not die.
Yeah, I mean, we basically get trained to to fall correctly. Yeah, so that we don't seriously injure ourselves, but
Yeah.
it's still seriously injuring us.
Well, you have to. I mean, it has to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, your arm sticks out a little too far and you catch it on something.
Oh,
like, you're gonna.
Like last year, I did a moonsault out the turnbuckle, and I twisted just a little bit and landed, and I broke my leg. And I didn't know that my leg was. This is also like my trainers always said, wrestlers, when we're hurt, we pretend like we're not, and when we're not, we pretend like we're hurt. And we have such like a higher threshold for pain.
I was just gonna ask you,
That, like,
have you always
I didn't
had...
know that my leg was broken for 2 days. I went to work the next day. I wrestled a show the next night, and then like the Saturday, I was like, it still feels a lot uncomfortable. And I went to the doctor, like, oh yeah, you broke your fibula, like in your leg. I was like, what?
Did it heal right?
Yeah, it healed fine.
Because often if you walk on something for like 2 days, I have really high pain tolerance in some areas. I had a tooth yanked a couple of years ago. I'm not smiling to show you where it was. And I got a what they call a dry socket. It just stayed open.
Yeah.
It's rated as one of the top 4 non-life-threatening, painful things that can happen.
I believe it.
Scratched cornea, a dry socket, a kidney stone, and childbirth.
I've had a kidney stone. That was brutal.
I've heard that it will make a grown man cry.
Yeah,
My uncle cried.
mine got stuck and it like shut down my kidney, so it was like really bad. But it was really fucking bad.
I gotta ask because I've dreaded a kidney stone my whole life. I keep checking to see if that is still blinking. How did it come on you? Like, did it come on like a slow pain?
No, it was like woke me up out of a dead sleep, and I was just like, I felt like some discomfort in my back. I was like, what the fuck? And I thought I had to throw up, and then like it rapidly like got worse, and then like my dad was like supposed to come pick me up so we could go to work, and I was like, hey, I don't think I can go, and he like drove me to the hospital. By the time, it was probably like an hour from like me calling him to getting to the hospital, and like I was like crawling into the hospital. Like they're trying to make me fill out paperwork, and I couldn't even hold a pen in my hand.
My uncle got a kidney stone. He's one of the most stoic human beings I've ever met in my life. He was bawling from the at the height of it. He was actually not bawling like unhinged, but he was crying. He was like had tears rolling down his face.
I couldn't believe how bad it hurt.
Yeah, and with the dry socket, I had a scratch cornea. Somebody thumbed right through my lens. That was excruciating because it keeps happening again. Every time when you sleep in a rapid eye movement, you wake up and it feels like somebody just jammed their finger.
God.
To the point that I actually broke my wrist pounding my wall. I had a cement from rage.
So now you have a broken wrist and a scratched cornea.
And I was like, all right, we got to get a hold of this. This is like old Rob. Anger would ruin my life. But with the dry socket, I went in like a week later, and she's like, oh my God. What? How did you handle this? I'm like, handle what? She's like, you have a dry socket. This is wide open. You had exposed nerves, everything. I was like, so what? Like, is that a big deal? She's like, you should have like by 2 to 3 hours after the tooth was yanked, you should have been in such pain that you went to me or an emergency room. I was like, as long as it didn't hurt worse than the original pain,
right?
I didn't give a fuck. So in some areas, but the physical thing, man, that always amazed me. What the guys put their bodies through, and specifically in your case, like I've watched, like I said, I don't know the seat, like from the inside, but I could see them taking time with you because there is something. You know what you're watching, like you said, or a cut above or whatever. You don't have to say that arrogantly. I know compared to like the local, like my songwriting's a little bit above that. I can say that collectively, like safely without going too far. That's the case. Like when I watch you, I'm like, this is different than some kids in the backyard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Especially for a guy your size and like the moves, and you're also stiff as hell. That was like the first thing I noticed. I was like, that's Stan Hansen shit right there.
Yeah. The motto from our school is always snug but safe. Like we lay it in, but it's where it's supposed to be, type of thing.
Are some guys recklessly dangerous with other dudes?
Oh yeah.
For real?
Yeah. And they sometimes
get a rep like that?
Get a rep, and they get exposed, and they're the people that you don't want to work with. But usually they get weeded out pretty.
Do they occasionally get their cards pulled, like somebody jumps them after? Or?
No. The most interesting thing and the biggest difference between hardcore and wrestling is that they're both incredibly aggressive. But like hardcore is aggressive on all levels. Like, if you got a problem with somebody, you're gonna go fucking fight them.
Yeah.
Like, no questions asked. In wrestling, if you got a problem with them, you're just gonna talk shit about them behind their back. Like, they are the most non-confrontational people in the world, which is like, you hear all these old stories of like, you know, Terry Funk, you know, the Funks and, and like Hanson and Brody and this and that. Like, if they had a problem with someone, they
went right up to them,
whoop their ass, and then like they were not allowed back. And now it's like high school like bullshit. But it's like, I've definitely dealt with people within my school or just like people that I've had a problem with in wrestling, where it's like they've disrespected me or my school or my like teammate, and I'm just like, hey motherfucker, you got a problem? And like, they're like,
shock them.
Whoa, like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, what'd you think was gonna happen?
Yeah. That's actually, that's interesting. That was one of the things I wanted to ask is, you do hear stories about some of those old guys that would just come right up to you, but when I do read about some of the recent stuff, or like, even like, there's a word I'm looking for here, a casual reference point to anybody casually interested, like, if you read anything sustained about like the Attitude Era of WWE, it is nothing but guys stabbing each other in the back, backstage politics and stuff like that. And I'm like, fuck, like, there's the elements that are similar, but that's not similar to hardcore. One of the things I do love about hardcore is,
I think it used to be, and it just got like drastically different at some point. I mean, like, Bruiser Brody got stabbed in a shower because the guy didn't like how he did business. Yeah, it's like, that's some brutal shit. Like,
that is a truly terrifying story.
Yeah,
and that happened in front of multiple people, and nothing came of it.
No, it's like that's real fear too.
Yeah,
it's like they basically just killed your friend, and you didn't do anything about it.
But, and my impression with that was, it was actually, I read a lot about the guy that did it. I'm not gonna mention his name. Anybody can Google it in 2 seconds. But I honestly think he did it because Brody had such a savage reputation that he was scared, kind of, or intimidated into kind of like, I better bring a knife. Like,
yeah. Oh, it's like, it might have been like a knee-jerk reaction that probably went too far.
Yeah. But even like just fear or whatever, because he did have like everybody. They said he wasn't bad with the other wrestlers, although he could be rough if he didn't like you.
Yeah.
But he hated promoters.
Yeah.
He hated them.
I always heard, like, if he really didn't like a promoter, he would do, like, right before he'd go out the curtain, he'd be like, I want like $200 extra, or however much extra, or I'm not going out. And it's like, you just put him in this weird position.
It's the hip-hop pay-or-play thing, like Wu-Tang back in the day. If the club was sold out and there were 10,000 people, they'd wait a half an hour until the crowd was livid. Then they turned the
like
promoter, want 5 more. It was 5 more grand. They call it pay-or-play, to the point that the promoters got used to it. With hardcore, like, they got ready for it. They'd like, I better set aside an extra 10 grand in case this thing sells out. That never happens in hardcore, because hardcore is based in punk.
Yeah.
Which it's not supposed to be about money, although that goes the other way sometimes, to the point where the bands get fucked.
Yeah.
But that backstage stuff you're talking about, that's more similar to one of the things I love about hardcore is you can never get too big for your britches. You can never ever think you're above the crowd or anything like that, because this scene, cards get pulled and gods get toppled.
Yeah, someone's gonna check you soon.
Check you. That's it. Whereas now, sometimes things get a little out of hand. That's always the case. But metal, I watch these bands shitting on each other. I watch every fan shitting on each other. And if somebody does get punched or whatever, there is outrage. I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? You're talking about this guy's mother and how she sucks cocks, and he's not going to punch you when he sees you? Like, what the fuck? How could that be that way? That's surprising, though, that's the case with some of the aspects of wrestling. But like I said, back in the heyday that most people from my age
some of these
remember,
guys, you know, they look like killers. Like, they're humongous, like, buff dudes. They could probably fuck you up pretty good. And they're like, they're the dudes that are like, oh, I don't know what to say to him, man. And it's like, go fucking tell him to go fuck himself. Like, what are you talking about?
I always heard that of all people, like from other wrestlers, not from him, that Van Vader was like a pussycat, not in a bad way, but just that he was like really soft-spoken.
Real nice dude.
Really nice dude.
I believe it.
That dude's a monster.
Yeah.
Like, even now, at like, you know, he's in his like late 60s now, I think. Mid-60s.
Yeah, he's
even lost
some,
a
like,
little height.
Crazy health problems too.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard he's not going to make it that much longer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but he was the first like 6'9" guy that I said do a moonsault, and I was like, nobody that big has any business doing that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's like some of the stuff you do, but That's the thing. Like with every wrestler, like one thing I keep in mind is this person throws other human beings in the air for a living.
Yeah.
Like a pro football player, even if he's not like some savage combat savant or something, he knocks down other 300-pound guys for a living. He can do it to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think that's probably where it comes from. Like, he's probably like such a nice guy because it's like in the back of his head, he's like, yeah, I could probably fucking kill you, but it's like, why be a dick though?
well, you know, we're getting into strange territory, but there has to be confidence with that kind of size. Like, you're certainly not. I mean, anybody can be anything, but some of the most savage, reactive dudes I've ever met are small guys.
Oh yeah.
Because they're waiting for somebody to
prove themselves or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. But like I said, I just find the entire world fucking fascinating, and I'm glad because you post a lot of footage. It seems like you were saying that was just L.A. though, that it's somewhat of an anomaly that there's a lot of activity going on there.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is definitely on an upswing, like a big upswing right now. Like, for whatever reason, like, independent wrestling as a whole is really popular right now and is getting a lot of mainstream notoriety. So it's good for everybody. Like, there's lots of promotions, there's lots of new fans, and people aren't just looking for WWE as their source for it because, you know, people say what they will, whatever, but a lot of people think that the WWE product is kind of lazy now, or they just don't get what they want out of it. And you got guys that are doing the most insane shit on these independent levels,
yeah.
And you can go see it like a
Right
hardcore
in
show,
front of you.
10 feet, 5 feet away, and it's like so, I don't know if you've ever seen any PWG stuff or stuff like that, but
I know the name.
there's basically a vets hall in Reseda that hardcore bands have played at. It probably fits 300 people, and they pack 500 people in there with a ring, and people are up on the ring, and people are like doing moonsaults out of the ring and stuff into the crowd. Like, it's like crazy shit. It's like being at a hardcore punk show. It's like you get that energy, you get that in your face vibe, and it's special. Like,
They want something they can call their own.
exactly.
It's something that they can touch, and that's the thing. Like, I remember one of the Backstreet Boys saying one time, you know, I feel bad for any band that comes after our time period because all these kids are growing up seeing such a great production with us. I was like, all these kids are going to turn 16,
Yeah.
hate your guts, and want to see something right in front of them that they can talk to after, that they can be part of. Don't slow down. You know what I mean? Like, don't take yourself too seriously, Mr. Backstreet Boy. Like, it's the difference between a Rolling Stone show, which is great,
Yeah.
big huge production, get to hear some songs, some big songs, you know, like, or going to see, you know, a hardcore show in front of 60 people in the know.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'll go see like the big spectacle concerts and stuff, but I get kind of bored with it. But like on this tour that we just did with Terror, like there was a few venues that we had like amazing sound and like big venues or big stages and stuff like that. But then we played in Louisville. We played a little pizza shop where there's no stage, and it's like a hallway that fits probably 150 people, and it was slam packed. It's like I'm dodging people that are dancing, and like,
Yep.
It was my favorite show probably Godsade's ever played because it was just like, I get the fear that someone's gonna pit me down during my own songs. It's like, it
That's
was
a great
really
feeling.
cool. Yeah.
I have to admit too, and it's not often I say this. I actually love God's Hate. Like,
thank you.
That's some fucking like.
That means a lot because you definitely have been open about like not liking a lot of newer
Yeah,
hardcore
a lot of
bands.
news. Like, I actually heard it and was like, I actually really like this. Like, it's very satisfying. It's very, when I want to hear something heavy, that's what I want to hear. When I want to hear something aggressive, based on aggression, based on heaviness, like, that's what I want to hear. But there was something I was gonna say. That's like that feeling you get when you don't feel safe at your own show. You know, you can't fake that. It's you can't manufacture it. It has to come from them. I love that element. I love
I
the
think,
vibe of that.
and it's getting kind of old to say, but it's like hardcore kind of has lost that edge a little bit in a lot of the time. But I think there's those special times when it's there, and it's like we don't need to feel danger like someone's gonna beat our ass or something.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're on alert. That's
Yeah.
what like I like.
That feeling, it's not the violence, it's the fact that it's not tame and it's not controlled.
Yeah.
That's what I like, the feeling that somebody might decide to jump off that bar. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like it's the lack of inhibition that I like. I don't want to ever see anybody get beat down, especially for no reason. I understand that, you know, there's some violent guys from violent backgrounds and stuff like that. That's just a take it or leave it. It's always been part of hardcore.
Yeah, that's how it
but
is.
I hate to see targeted violence. I hate to see violence for the sake of violence. But I always loved that feeling of uncertainty because it meant that the rules weren't necessarily being followed.
Yeah, Scott Vogel, every night he says this is positive aggression. And like he's like the only person I've ever heard really put it that way. And it's like, it's so true. Especially at like a terror show. Like,
oh, yeah.
Kids are coming from every direction. Kids are dancing. Like, you have to be on alert the whole time.
The
and it just
whole time.
adds that whole atmosphere. Plus, Terror being an awesome band. Like,
and as far as hardcore losing some of its edge, that'll only be the case until there's bands like you guys coming up. As long as there's new bands coming up that stir up the same emotions, put on the same kind of shows with their own stamp on it, not aiming backwards, but just aiming forwards. If there were more God's hates. So, yeah, is that how you pluralize that? Okay, yeah. If there were more bands like that and touring and willing to put the time in, it would be okay. And that stuff ebbs and flows. It comes and goes.
Yeah.
We just went through a huge metal time. I'm seeing hardcore kind of come back again in multiple forms. I've seen that happen multiple times just in my own time. And those things do sort of ebb and flow. But I wanted to ask you before we wrap this thing up, because they're starting to close this club up. What are the craziest things you've ever seen wrestling? Like, either like incident, move, injury. I know sometimes the fans get crazy too, like the old ECW shit. They kill each other after the.
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen like personally like in like live. I haven't seen like anything tragic happen. Thankfully,
Thank God.
Knock
Thank
on
God.
wood. I hope I never do.
Never.
But it's like, you know, just watching like video and stuff like that. Like, you watch people break their necks on moonsaults and stuff like that. Actually, my training partner, now that I think about that, we were just fucking around one day and he's like a gymnast and he tried to do a backflip with a corkscrew in it and basically jumped and didn't jump enough and like landed and then turned and he broke his neck in the ring, like in front of me.
Holy shit.
And I was just like, he was like, ah, fuck. And he like grabbed his neck and he was just like, oh, that fucking hurt. But he thought it was just like a kink in his neck or something. And like the next day it was like, oh yeah, I got a broken neck, and he was out for like a year.
He didn't paralyze himself.
No, yeah, thankfully.
Oh, dude, thank God. That fucking shit freaks me the fuck out.
Dude, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing about wrestling that's the craziest is that at any second something can go wrong.
Somebody can get badly hurt.
Yep. And
Dudes start to get fatigued and tired 10 minutes into a match.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you lose your concentration for 1 fucking second.
and that's what you really rely on is trusting that other person.
I was gonna say, you gotta know you're working with that. Is that why the old wrestlers loathe bad workers so much?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's it. Because one of the things that all the old wrestlers, he wasn't a fucking worker. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's their lives.
Yeah, because like you said, if you're, 15, 20 minutes into a match and the finish is somebody giving someone a power bomb or a pile driver or something, and then they pick them up sloppy and they just drop them, like right on their head, you can kill that person.
Oh, for sure. The one major wrestling event, I've been to like a bunch of like independent events, but the one major wrestling event was WCW. It was during the NWO days, and to be honest, the entire night there were only 2 matches. This was back when it was all mic spots. Everybody
Right.
would come out building up the next pay-per-view. I think this was like right before it was run into the ground, but one of the 2 matches that happened that night, over 2 hours, which is crazy. There were a couple guys getting their jump backstage, but you couldn't tell if it had been pre-recorded or if it was happening at the moment because it was Jumbotron shit.
Right.
But Raven fought with a tag team, some luchadors, and they were just masked guys, like they were jobbers, but they did one of those 2-man, I don't know what it's called, the 2-man spike onto the head,
Oh, yeah.
but they mistimed it, and the dude, his fucking head touched his belly button. He went straight down his head, and he immediately went still, and the thing is, Raven was playing an evil guy at that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault. The two guys just miscued a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was his fault. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but everybody went, and they cut right to commercial. But the minute he hit, Raven went and like went down and whispered something to him, and he waited a second. He sat back and did his evil thing where he sat back and lorded over it. But the minute they cut the commercial, dudes ran out, stretching him, and I would never be able to follow up on that. I always wondered, like, I pray that guy's still walking, for Christ's sakes.
Actually, thinking about it more, I watched a guy do a lion salt, which is basically like he jumps off the middle rope and does a backflip, but like he didn't rotate enough and he landed straight on his head. But he was like such like a buff muscle dude. He had like giant traps. I'm pretty sure his like traps like saved his life because he landed on his head and like the room went silent. And you just see like the ref like grab his head like, oh my God, like we all thought he was dead. And then he like just gets up and you're like, how the fuck are you walking right now? And then you finish the match. I was like, this guy is a machine. He's a monster.
There was this famous strongman, and I fucking can't remember his name, but the reason I'm not going to remember his exact name, but he was a famous Jewish strongman from the Bronx in the 20s and 30s, and he would hang himself. He would let people tie the rope, do the whole thing like a noose, and drop him, and his neck was so strong that he could do a
He's
lethal...
like flexing his neck.
He would just hang onto his neck and take the drop.
Oh
and that
my
was like his
God.
fucking thing. And to this day, I was like...
How long did he live?
He never got his neck broke. He didn't live... He did die in his 50s. But it was like of something else. Like, I remember saying, like, how many... First of all, how did you have the balls to do that? But I guess the way he started was...
Probably before they knew about bulging discs and herniated discs and stuff like that.
Holy fuck.
Oh,
Imagine
Jesus
detritive damage with that guy. But I remember saying, like, how did he think that up? How drunk did you have to be to, like... He must have... I guess he started by just hanging himself. Like, just taking the weight.
What, he like trying to kill himself and it didn't work? And he's
I
just
don't
like,
know.
He's like checking his watch like, well,
Yeah,
I've been here for an hour.
Maybe I can make some money out of this. Fuck, man. That is, like, fucking crazy.
That is fucking crazy. Like, yeah, just thinking about, like, how did he figure out that he could do this?
Yeah, how did you get to this point? Like, the bullet catching thing, you don't actually catch a bullet. Like,
Right.
They never did that, but I don't know. I just find the fucking stories, like any of the stories, any of the insider stuff, like amazing. Just interesting because it's a world that I've watched since I was a kid and just don't have a lot of access to. Music has no smoke and mirrors for me anymore. Like, once you see, accidentally open the door and the guy from Iron Maiden taking a crap in a porta potty over in Europe, you're like, this ain't as cool as it once was. But I still find the wrestling...
Wrestling is still cool once you know the smoke and mirrors. That's how I feel.
Oh, so you still love it?
Oh yeah.
Because
Like,
a lot of people resent these things once they get involved, like politics and stuff like that.
yeah,
But
like I said, it's nothing I haven't dealt with in music. So it's like I know the bullshit when I see it, and I know how to deal with promoters as like, branding myself, and like I know how to do business for myself because I booked my own band a bunch, and
Sure.
it's just all these little things that people just don't know how to do that I'm like, how do you just not know how to do that? Like, it seems like common knowledge, but some people are really talented at physically and they have no brains.
Oh, yeah.
Or they are too nervous to like stick up for themselves or whatever. And it's a weird deal.
That's always been my thing with music. I can write music all day long, come up with fucking images, art, everything to go with it. But the minute I have to assign a dollar value to what is this worth, I could be buffaloed. People would be getting me with a song. That was my whole life. Because I was doing it because I loved it,
Yeah.
so I couldn't assign a value to it. Like, I don't know what to call that. Like,
I think one of the funniest things with wrestling too is that it's so based off of like
what's up, Bob? Oh, thank you, brother.
the screwdriver.
Nice.
It's so based off of people like fearing for their spot and stuff like that in different promotions, and people are like, well, I can't say that or else he won't book me. It's
Yep.
like, then fuck him. Like, don't work for him. Like, if he's obviously fucking you around, just stick up for yourself.
Here's the...
When in punk and hardcore, you're taught to stick up for yourself from day one. Like,
but it does conflict with the idea that you're not supposed to be doing this for money, and clever promoters will do that. You should do this for the fans. You should do this for this and that. I was always susceptible.
Well, I got a
shit
15-hour drive tonight, so fuck off. Like,
you do, and that's what happens. You reach that point. What you hope is by the time you reach that point, it doesn't pollute your love for the music, which it never did for me.
Yeah.
Nothing ever affected the music. But here's the question we'll leave with, because this is the one I'm dying to know the answer to. Right now, what do you think is healthier, and what is paying better, music or wrestling? And by music, I mean heavy music.
I mean, probably on both ends right now, healthier is 100% music, because I'm not destroying my body.
Oh, okay. I meant, you splitting, Kevy?
Oh, you mean as far as the state of it?
Yes.
Wrestling probably, because wrestling is like on such a huge upswing. Paying better, personally, wrestling, because I'm branding myself.
Yep.
All my merch goes to me. And hopefully, and I have room for it to be a career professionally, which, you know, hopefully that's...
You hope with music, but there's not as clear a path.
Yeah. It's definitely more of a gamble. And you're kind of in the dark most of the time.
And yeah, that's it. That's fucking... Thank you for taking this time, Brody.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, I appreciate it. I'm gonna go, now that this thing is actually closing down, we can go.
Yeah.
We just saved a lot of goodbyes, though. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brody King.
Thanks for having me.
White Trash Rob. See you guys later. See you later, gang. Brody.